Hello, this is Tony Walker here, and I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm not going to look at any knives, flashlights, Bibles, or anything like that today. But what I want to do is give you a little bit of an overview of my newly designed website. So let's open that up. If you will open your browser and visit the website preachertony.com, that is going to take you to the new page. Now, the website has been up for I don't know, 2003, maybe 2004, something like that. When I logged into my website account a couple weeks ago, when I started back tinkering with this, said I'd been a customer for like 12, 13 years, and it was almost kind of hard to believe that. Now, a lot of the content that is on the website is the same, but I wanted to give it just a little bit of a refresher, as well as kind of streamline a few of the links. Now, those of you who watch the YouTube videos just may not be aware that I've even had a website. I usually try to mention it at the end of the programs or the end of the videos, but you know, I know a lot of times that the video may be cut off before it gets that far, or you know, people just never take the time to visit it. So spent the last couple of weeks, mainly one long weekend a few weeks ago. The software that I use for the website, Rapidweaver, was updated to Rapidweaver 7, and so I just wanted to use that and as an opportunity to take some time, go back through the website. In all honesty, I hadn't really even touched the website in probably 6 months or so. So what I wanted to do is just give you an overview. This is I don't know if on the video you can see the mouse moving or not, but up here towards the top of the screen, it's just a little picture of my desk that I have at home. Scroll on down, and it pretty neat effect, the new software, as it scrolls. I'm not sure what the technical term for that is, but it fades away, so to speak. Picture of me a long time ago at my little setup at home, and then a picture of about a decade or so later. An overview of the radio program, which ended up turning into a podcast, and then the radio station closed, and I stopped doing the radio program. And so what you have right here, you can use this link to open up the Bible podcast in the iTunes page, or use that feed if you use some kind of podcast app besides iTunes. And the very last, let's see, where's it at? Right here. That was the last sermon that played on the radio here in Anderson, South Carolina, 3 years ago now. Hard to believe that. And so what these are, for the most part, are sermons that I preach outside of what I do here at church, teaching the kids' classes and teaching the teenagers on Wednesdays. If I ever get the opportunity to preach at my church or a different church, if it's able to be recorded, I'll upload those here. And so what you've got right here is, I don't know, maybe about 350 different radio sermons, all of them about 15 minutes long, so you can listen while you do a quick exercise or a quick commute in the vehicle. And so that's going back quite a few years. Back a long time ago, I used to separate radio programs from church sermons, but as time went on, I stopped kind of making that distinction and just started putting them up here. And like, for example, if it was a sermon and not a radio program, I would usually make a note of that in the description. So that, when you go to preachertony.com, that will be the home page, because most people who visit the website, that's probably what they would be most interested in anyway, is the MP3 sermons. So you go up here to the top, click on menu, and that's going to open up a little thingamajig that brings up a few different options, and I'll just give you a quick overview of those. Blog, this is where I may from time to time put in thoughts. I thought about making that the home page, but if it didn't get updated all that much, usually from just a few little stats I've looked at, for the short time that I did have this page as the home page, only about half the people who visited preachertony.com clicked on the sermons link, where I would really like people to end up anyway. And so I made the sermons the home page, and I made the blog not the home page anymore. So preachertony.com will take you straight to the MP3s. And I may from time to time add stuff here. If it ends up not being used, I'll just delete the page later. You'll see this at the bottom of every page. I guess you could say my favorite Bible verse, Romans 8:28. A link to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, link to the YouTube videos, link to open up my iTunes page, telephone number. If you're on a mobile device, you should be able to tap that number, and it should dial away, as well as getting in touch with me via email, tony@preachertony.com. So all those you should be able to click on, and it'll take you to the appropriate app or link. Next would be the videos. Little description there. Hopefully people will click on my main YouTube page to see all the videos, but just to give people an overview of what they could expect. Sermons you could go through and look at. Bible studies that I hope to add more as time goes by. Bible reviews, which probably gets the most traffic on the YouTube page, as well as different hobbies. That would be the flashlights, the knives, pens, notebooks, EDC items, things like watches, things like that. So just to give people a taste of what they could expect at preachertony.com. Writings. This page used to be a complete mess because of the way it was. You would open up a menu, you would click on it, and then it would list all these different things I wrote, and that just got to be a headache, especially with this new design with the links at the top of the page under the little menu. I wanted writings to bring up a page where it just clearly listed different things that I had written. This one right here, I'd say they're not really in order of importance or what I think's best, or they're not in order chronologically. But I would say if you're going to read some of these things that I've written, I would start at the top and work your way down, because I kind of put them in that kind of order. Hey, if somebody was going to read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of my things, which ones would I want them to read first? Children in Heaven. This was a poem that was written in honor of two good friends who lost their children, and I just kind of use my imagination a little bit about those two friends that I have who have never met each other, whose children that passed away, who obviously had never met one another. I kind of use my imagination of those children being friends in heaven, and one day all of us will be reunited together. So I wrote this a few months ago, and as I read it, usually it'll still bring tears to my eyes, just thinking on how much those friends do mean to me. Let's go back to writings. The Secret Place, another one of my favorites, one that I wrote at a place where I just go when I can be alone by myself, a place here in Anderson. Little building where I study in at home sometimes when the weather cooperates, not too hot or not too cold, and how spending time with God alone. This Crumbs poem was one that just kind of hit me one day, talking about someone, and I need to go back and fix the grammar in that. It's not capitalized or anything, but about well, you just have to read it. But that, and the farmer one was good. I wrote this poem after a time of discouragement due to the fact of seeing no results from my spiritual labors. You try to do what you're asked to do each week, and you see absolutely positively no fruit whatsoever. Kind of think of a farmer who goes out and plants seeds for months and years at a time and never sees any results. Should he keep sowing, or should he do something different? Well, that poem kind of addresses that. And then it goes on down. Some of these are poems, some of these are different writings. God in Sports, that got a lot of traffic a few years ago. How that whatever we do, whether we're a preacher or a quarterback, we should do it for God's glory and do it to the best of our ability, for His name's sake. Suicide poem. Had a good friend from high school that happened to. or did, and so I wrote this poem for his family after I got the news. And so, as you can see, a lot of these aren't very frivolous. They're things that there's not hundreds of these, but 2, 3, 4 times a year something will happen during the course of the year that really is super low or super high, and usually I'll write something in response to it. Okay, so that would be the writings. Next we have my testimony. A lot of people never get this far because when I share my story with them, they say, well, Tony, we never knew that. We never knew that about you. So what you have here is just a little overview of my life. I was raised here in town. Mother married a stepfather. My real father is unknown. She was murdered by my stepfather when I was 10 years old. I was then adopted by my babysitters. They got custody of me. We started going to church. A few years after making a false profession of faith, I was truly saved and started trying to serve the Lord. Not long after that, I told the Lord I'd preach if that's what He wanted me to do. And then just it kind of goes from there. Finished high school, went to a Bible class here at church, and then after that went to a little bit bigger Bible school in a nearby town. And then a few family little tidbits and a few verses that kind of go along with the fact of, when things happen, it doesn't take God by surprise. He knows exactly what's going on, and He is in control. A couple little things I will point out about that. Up here at the top of the page, there's a couple of links that I'll point out to you. This one right here, to hear an interview on Armed American Radio of my life story, you can click here. To hear an interview on PID Radio of my life story, click here. To hear a 15-minute message in my testimony, click here. And to read a magazine article about my life, click here. What these are, let's see, the 15-minute message was what I shared on the local radio program when I shared my testimony one time. Up here was a podcast that I used to listen to a long time ago, and I was able to share my testimony on that podcast. Now the bottom link and the top link right here, what that is a man, long story short, a man who is a known author, and has a nationwide syndicated radio program. He caught wind of my story, what happened to my mother, about her being killed, and how in response I didn't blame a gun, I blamed the person who did it. And in him being a weapon type person, picked that up and wanted to use that, and I had no problem with it. So what he ended up doing is asking me to come on his radio program. Now think about that. Little old Tony here in Anderson, South Carolina, one Sunday evening on his nationwide radio broadcast, I got on a secular, might I add, on a secular nationwide radio broadcast for, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, somewhere in there now. I can't remember exactly. I was able on secular radio to tell people about how the Lord had worked in my life. So that was amazing. Well, after that, he ended up making a magazine article about it. I'll open up that in a new window and show you that. And he titled the article, Good from Evil. Now, this picture's a few years old, so the kids are a little bit bigger. My hair's a little bit grayer. So this is a story, this is the article you can read that he wrote, and a few people left some comments. But on how, good from evil, good from evil. That sounds like Genesis chapter 50 verse 20, and there it is in a secular online magazine, as well as it was in a print magazine as well. So that was amazing that I got to share my testimony to a different crowd. Beliefs. Little paragraph up at the top, let me mention that. While I will still hold to the following statements below, made more than a decade ago, I've also learned that a simple statement of beliefs don't always clearly state what kind of believer someone is. When I get the time, I will expand this page a little bit. Okay, that's the clarification, and this right here has been the same for years. Excuse me. I preach and teach from a King James Bible. I believe the Trinity. believe Jesus died for the world, but only those who repent and believe will be saved. God's going to the prophecy stuff. Some of it can get confusing, and I heard somebody say one time that he was talking about the book of Revelation, and all the different things people believe about it. Even if somebody kind of believes the same as someone else, you can still come to some different conclusions. And he had a friend, he said, I read through the book of Revelation and I figured out what it means. He said, there's going to be a battle and Jesus is going to win. So I thought that was a pretty good summation. Salvation's by grace through faith. Baptism is by immersion for a believer, but it doesn't make you any more saved. I would say maybe just obedient. I believe in a eternal salvation, eternal security, once saved, always saved. There's a lot of things I could explain about that. I don't believe repeating a prayer you don't understand is a gold ticket to heaven. But again, rather than try and type all that out, I kind of come to the conclusion this page right here is enough to show people that I'm not in a cult. But beyond that, for someone to really know what somebody believes, they need to listen to their teaching for months and sometimes even years. I believe saved folk going to go to heaven. I believe lost folk going to go to hell. And God promised to preserve His word. So, again, I wouldn't have any problem saying that I still believe this stuff, even after all these years. But I also know people who would say they believe this right here, and they are complete... what's the right word? They don't know how to get along with anybody. They are so... I kind of heard the phrase, some people can be so open-minded that their mind falls out, but some people can be so close-minded that they don't know how to learn from the minds of other people. God blesses all people with the ability to think, some better than others. I recognize that my mind is not one of the geniuses in church history, so I have absolutely no problem learning from someone, even if they may be somewhat different. It's been said millions of times, but chew the meat and spit out the bones. Some people would differ with that. That's fine and well. So I still believe the same way, but I've also learned to be a little bit more loving to the body of Christ, realizing the certain denomination that I'm in is not going to be the only folks up in heaven, although there are probably groups who would identify with the denomination that I'm in, who they almost act, preach, think, walk, believe that their folks are the only ones that are going to be there. And I think those people are foolish. Eternity. Borrowed this page from a dear brother named Barry Galvin. That line is at the bottom. He's got a cool little video talking about what is a Christian that it'd be good to check out. Let's see. Well, I don't think the sound is going to play because of the way I'm... There it goes. Okay. Yeah, so it's not gonna play through the way I've got the speakers. But this is a great video that I shared on my social media page after I saw that he made it, and so I would encourage you to check that out as well. You say if you're saved, then great, pass that along to someone else on social media, and maybe you've got a Facebook or a Twitter or something like that. You could share it, and it could be seen hundreds of times. So a page about the gospel. Salvation is by grace through faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. And then we've got a final page called links. I used to have some links on here of different people and preachers, and I kind of scaled this down a little bit to just really the most relevant. Gethsemane Baptist Temple, this is the church where I've gone for the last 20 years. As far as where I've learned most of the Bible from, this would probably be for several years I spent on night shift, on third shift in a plant by myself, and I spent hours each night on my job that I had that I could listen to headphones listening to this brother. Fellowship Tract League, they print gospel tracts for free. Bible Believers, let's see, that would be where'd you go? so far. Okay. Bible Believers. Okay, okay. Been quite a while since I visited this website, but a lot of good articles, and I left that link up. The Rochesters, they provide the music for the opening clip to the Bible broadcast. Doom doom, this blessed little book that I hold in my hand. That little ditty that plays at the beginning, that's where that comes from. Online KJV Bible, KJV audiobook that you can download and listen to. This is a preacher and friend that I've met the last couple years, and so I always enjoy listening to his sermons. Those are good. Pajama Pages. This is a local man. Maybe not quite 5 years ago. 5 years I was beginning to be a little bit more loving toward other Christians. 10 years ago, I would probably not have cared much about visiting this website, because I was, as I said earlier, so close-minded that if somebody was not in the same group, circle, camp, whatever you want to call it, that I would identify myself as a part of, I'd say, nah, I'm not going to fool with it. I got other stuff I need to read. Well, and what knowledge and lessons I shut myself out from by having that kind of attitude. Well, a question about something came up at work a few years ago, and when it did, it caused me to search something on Google, and which led me to this website. Just skimming on this website, some of you would not have a clue what it relates to. Some of you can, just by the few little things on here, you automatically know what it's about. But these are some great articles. Now, would 100% of those of you watching this video agree with 100% of the stuff on this website? No, I've got better sense than to believe that. But if you will read some of these articles on this website, they will be very enlightening on some of the stuff going on in the name of religion today. He doesn't update it all that often anymore because he stays busy. The guy who does this website, me and him eat lunch together maybe 3-4 times a year. Every 3 or 4 months we'll get together, and I'll ask him if I can borrow some of his time and just talk about how things are going locally and just try to glean from him. He's actually working on a book right now. He gave me a copy, he gave me a copy of the first chapter, and he's hoping to finish it up this summer. Bible Design Blog. This would be more along the lines of a hobby website, because being a Bible website, it's not teaching about sermons and things like that, but it's a website that just talks about, you can see from this picture right here, it's talking about how Bibles are constructed. And if you're looking to purchase a high quality Bible, what do you need to look for? What kind of things should you look for in a Bible to see if it would last a long time? And so that's a very informative website, and if you're into that kind of thing, you could waste several hours reading on there. This would be the website of the brother whose sermons I shared with you a while ago. So I always enjoy reading that stuff. And then we have a website right here called the Babylon Bee. The Babylon Bee. What this is a website of Christian satire. And sometimes, people read these and they'll say all these comments, well, I can't believe this happened, or I can't believe that happened. And what people don't realize is, hey, this stuff is not real. It's made up stories meant to use satire to bring to light things going on in the church world. Some people do not understand that. Some of them, sometimes people say they're a little bit over the edge. Sometimes people say that would go a step farther than that. Some of them I read and I say, okay, and I skip it. Some of them I read and I say, I get the point they're making. And there have been a few of them on here that I've read and I've laughed so hard that it brings me to tears and I'm almost gasping for breath. if somebody reads one of these articles and they say, well, I don't understand the point, then that's because maybe you've never crossed or dealt with the issue or the topic at hand that's addressed in that article. Church cleans out the fridge. That is poking fun at how most church refrigerators are filled with junk that's years old, because everybody likes doing the noticeable things, but nobody cares to do the little jobs that don't get any attention. And there's you know, all kind of things in here. Excuse me. This one right here. Church mistakenly employs homeless musician for 3 years thinking he was the youth pastor. That one I got a kick out of. So read that if you have time. If you're offended, then skip it and read the next one. Eventually you'll find one you think that's funny. And then King James Bible Studies. I use this quite often when I do lessons with the teenagers here at church. On Wednesday nights, we do, more like a church style lesson, but also during the summer, during summer vacations, I meet with the teenagers on a non-church day, and we spend a few hours together eating a meal together, and then we go through some of these lessons. And there's all kind of things through here that you can look through, and all these are, for the most part, they're about 3 or 4 pages long, and then they'll have a page or two of questions at the end. Not super hard, but not super easy as well. So those have come in handy before. So that would be it. When you go to preachertony.com, when you visit this website, you can click on this, and it will take you there, and hopefully you will find time sometime to visit the other links as well. So I hope that little website overview has been informative. Take a look at those things, and as always, if you have any questions, get in touch with me. Be sure to check out the other YouTube videos, and take care, keep in touch, and we'll see you later. Bye bye.